Welcome to the Truer Podcast. This is a podcast to connect you to a deeper relationship with your true self, to bring more meaning, more wholeness, and more authenticity into your life. In this episode, we're going to talk about the idea that your pain is a portal to more wholeness. I invite you to just check in with yourself for a moment. Just connect to your heart very briefly. Just noticing how you're doing. Let's interrupt the patterns that we perpetuate throughout the day and let's just connect inwards for a moment. Being present with yourself. You might even just want to give yourself an affirmation like, I love you, or whatever you need to hear. I was meditating on this topic earlier to get the inspiration for what I wanted to talk to you about today. And I was shown that pain can be a barrier, and that could be a good or a, positive or a negative impact on our life, right? And I'm talking about pain in this episode. It's physical pain and emotional pain. It could be either or both. I was shown a vision that pain can be a barrier and it can be like a wall to either keep people out, that's like a self-defense mechanism, or it can be like a transformative container. Like think of the cocoon or the chrysalis that the butterfly goes into, and it builds its own barrier around itself. And it goes through a process that I don't know if it's painful, but it involves a lot of unbecoming, dissolving the form, and then it forms itself again. So I was shown that pain can be like that container, or like I call it a portal, for that metamorphosis to happen if we are being intentional about it. Now, if you're not being intentional, then pain can be more of a barrier in terms of a wall blocking you from having meaningful connections to others, or a meaningful, like deep connection to the self. But if you're here, I have a feeling you want to be intentional. So let's talk about that. There's the idea of shadow work, and I talk about that on my podcast plenty of times. I like the idea of talking about the golden shadow. The golden shadow is really like seeing the parts of self that you haven't yet come to accept, that you haven't yet integrated into your sense of wholeness and self, the parts of self that you've maybe shamed or suppressed because of what the world told you to do. All of those parts of self have the opportunity to be the golden shadow. The golden shadow is like the yellow brick road that takes you to your true self, your authentic soul deep self. And when you can do that, it brings healing, it brings more wholeness, it brings more life into your life. It's like it brings more of your life force into your life, and you're able to live a more true life. That's why it's called the Truer Podcast, because we talk about these things all the time. I wanted to share something that happened recently in a session that I had with a private client, and it was really impactful to her, but it was also really impactful to me. And we were talking about this issue she's been noticing, and she wanted to dive into like what is like underneath that, like in the subconscious or like in her energy field, like what is the root cause, or what is there underneath that problem. And I just mentioned, yeah, let's look into this wounding, because it's actually a wounding that I know from working with this client for a long time that she's had since childhood. And it's one of those like lifelong things, that kind of lessons that keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. And she's like, oh, it's happening again. And it's happening in a really big way that's impacting her life in a big way. And so we dug into that together. And I said, it's like your childhood wounding. Let's look into that. And then when we got into it, I have her put her hands on her heart, And then we can go deep inside to some deep inner wisdom that can speak through her, that can show her what she needs to know, and it brings a lot of healing. It's called the Golden Heart Wisdom Practice. And when we did that, we were talking to this energy of this wound. And the wound told us, I don't want to be called a wound. I want to be called a teacher. And then we were like, what? It actually brings tears to my eyes a little bit just thinking of that moment. It was such a incredible moment. And I realized, oh, this is correct. If we're talking about this energy, calling it a wound, that's kind of disempowering. And I hadn't quite realized until that moment how the word choice I was using was almost disempowering. And of course, that's not what I want. And it said, I want to be known as the teacher because it's, let's just call it this energy that creates certain scenarios that perpetuate certain feelings and certain stories in this person's life. I mean, in this case, it had to do with feeling abandoned and betrayed. And that theme had come up in her life many times in very significant ways, and it didn't want to be known as the wound anymore because really it's a teacher. And we had gotten to the point in her shadow work, in her inner work, where it could speak to us and it showed us that. And I loved that moment. That was such an amazing moment. And then we could work with it. And there, in the end, it was alchemized into a beautiful, it was more like integrated and healed and alchemized into herself. So if we can see the golden shadow as a teacher, the golden shadow is this golden opportunity to reclaim. It's like a reclamation. These are parts of myself that have been shamed, blamed, repressed, suppressed, all of those things. And when you're working with the golden shadow, it's very empowering to think of it as the teacher, which I just learned myself, and I love that. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because if you can see your pain, either your physical pain, like in my case, it's endometriosis and ovarian cysts. In other people's case, it could be back pain. If you can view your pain, either like I mentioned with this client who has this emotional pain that has repeated throughout her life in sort of a thematic way, it's been like a theme in her life, or if you have pain in your body, you can see this as the golden opportunity to learn the lessons your soul came here to learn. Because really, you're experiencing that for a reason. Unless it's like, oh, I cut my finger on a paper cut and that's it. I wouldn't say your soul chose you to do that. But anything that's been long term or anything that's been repetitive or a theme in your life, if you can think about maybe just as I'm speaking, think about a difficulty that's painful, emotional pain or physical pain that you've been going through recently, and think back, has this been a theme in my life? Has this, like the main theme of this issue, has it shown up in my life in other situations? Has it perpetuated itself in my life? Or is this pain trying to tell me something? Because I would say very often it would be yes. Very often the pain is your body's way of speaking to you, or the emotional pain is your soul's way of guiding you to the golden opportunities for learning that your soul wants you to learn in this lifetime. Now, as I say this, I understand that a lot of people find the idea of shadow work really scary because you're like, oh, I am afraid of the dark. Dark meaning what's not in your conscious awareness, what's in the shadow. I'm afraid to find out. And that's a human reaction. That's totally to be expected. It's totally appropriate. Not everybody's like me. I'm kind of this big nerd who like loves shadow work. I do it all the time because Well, because it's not actually scary. That's where I was trying to get with this. It's not actually scary. I have another client I'm thinking of now who I do private sessions with, and she was afraid at first to look into her, we call it the mother wound, a very unhappy relationship with the mother in her life. And she was afraid to look at first because it was scary because she didn't know what she was going to find. But when we did, it ended up being this golden opportunity for learning, and she found out so much about herself through this process that has brought her so much healing and wholeness. And actually, she told me at the holidays she was able to have a beautiful experience and time with her mother because she had done that healing. So this is how this is what I mean when I say your pain is a portal to wholeness, or your pain is your teacher, because it helps bring more integrated, more healing into your life, more parts of yourself into connection, not hidden away or like scattered in the shadows because it's scary. So, really, you have to love yourself enough to do the work, the inner work. And I'm going to guide you in a practice in a moment. It's not that scary. Don't worry. It's very accessible, it's very simple. And this is just a basic exercise. And I'm going to show you it doesn't even have to be hard. It just takes intention. So, here's an example of what I mean when it doesn't even have to be hard. I have been experiencing an issue for a long time, and I talked about it plenty of times. It's like a feminine wounding healing issue, and I feel like I'm always uncovering more and more truths behind it as I go through my healing journey. And so recently I asked to be shown, I asked my guides, my highest self, I asked to be shown, what do I need to know about this? What am I not seeing? And I asked to be shown that in my dreams. And the crazy thing is, it really works when you are intentional and when you're connected. So I had a dream, and I'm not going to go into all the details because it's irrelevant to all of my listeners, but in the dream, I was shown the answer, and it was in a symbolic way. So what I did was I awoke from my dream. I really forced myself, remember this, remember this, remember this. And then once I got up, I journaled and I looked up the meanings of the symbolic parts of the dream. Like, for example, it was in my childhood home, it was in a particular room, it had to do with this piece of furniture, it had to do with tablecloths. Tablecloths. Like, if I said, oh, I had a dream about tablecloths, I wouldn't know what that means, but I had to look up the symbolic meaning behind that. It had to do with gifts and, presents and gifts, and it had to do with the closet. So all of those are the symbolic elements of the dream. Once I interpreted that, once I looked up the meaning of that, I had a huge breakthrough. It like told this story of this information that I had been missing. And there was this memory from my childhood that I totally forgot about. I've had it come up a few times here and there, but I haven't thought about it in like a year. And I was blown away. I had a breakthrough. Oh my God, there's this whole moment of my childhood, a memory that's painful for me. And it's definitely impacting my the feminine wounding that's within me. And when I say wounding, I'm aware now that I can maybe use a different word, the feminine pain, the pain around being female in this world that is so harsh to the feminine. So now it's on my radar. So that was easy. All I had to do was ask, and I guess I was a clear channel for receiving that information in a dream. And then I analyzed it, and boom, now I know. It's on my radar. It doesn't mean I've healed it, but it means it's in my awareness now, and I actually intend to heal it on a particular day when I know I'm going to be on like a mini retreat and I won't be around anyone, and I can do a meditation and receive more when the time is right. It didn't even cause anguish and suffering. Like, you think, oh, shadow work is so emotional, it's so sad. It actually made me feel really excited because I was like, oh my gosh, breakthrough, light bulb moment. I know what to do now. I know what to address next. Maybe I wasn't ready to address it a year ago, but I am ready to address it now because it came to me when I asked to be shown. So I'm just sharing this because I want you to understand that addressing your pain in these ways is totally possible. You just need to have the intention. You need to give it some headspace, give it some space in your life, and it brings so much benefit. so much healing and wholeness and lightness into your life. You know, the opposite of shadow is light. Oh, I just realized you can't have a shadow without the light. So the light in this scenario is your conscious awareness. So we have to bring what's outside of our conscious awareness into our conscious awareness, and then that helps us so much when you are open to it. I'm going to ask you to get ready for a little practice. If you're listening to this and you're not ready, maybe just listen to it one time through while you're doing whatever you're doing, and then come back to this later when you are ready. It should just take a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so. And it's okay. It's okay to have a little bit of fear looking into the unknown, but I'm telling you, it's actually going to bring much more healing and life force into your life than whatever you're afraid of. It's okay. So, we're going to call this the body wisdom practice. I invite you to put your hands on your body, maybe on your heart, or if you have a womb, put it on your womb, whatever feels good for you. And breathe into this area of your body. Deep inhale, slow exhale. Breathing in calm and peace. And breathing out whatever wants to go. Breathing in calm and peace. And breathing out whatever wants to go. And just sensing in the body, where is there pain or tension? Or it might be in your heart, it might be an emotion that's been triggered recently. Finding the pain in the body. And once you can identify where it is or what it is, we're going to call forward the consciousness of this pain energy, keeping in mind this is a golden opportunity for learning, a golden opportunity for healing. So we're going to call forward the consciousness of this energy. Keep breathing into the body. And if this pain had a form, like a body or a shape or a symbol, if it had some type of visual appearance, what would it look like? It might look like a jagged rock or a black cloud or something specific. What does it look like? And then sensing if this energy had a voice, what would it be saying? What would it say to you right now if it could speak? It might be saying, I'm hurting, or it might be yelling, it might be an angry voice. It could be saying anything, just sensing what would it be saying to you. And now sensing, where did this energy come from? Is it a childhood energy? Is it from a parent? Do you have a flashback to a humiliating moment from high school? Whatever this pain came from. Just sensing. And if you're not sensing anything, it's okay. This type of thing actually takes practice. So just consider this practice. And we can ask this energy, we can communicate with it and say, what do you need to feel better? What do you need? sensing it might need to cool down, it might need love, it might need to let go of something. Just sensing, what does it need? And now sensing, is there anything that wants to happen? What wants to happen? Do you need to do something to interact with this energy? Does your inner child need to come in? Do you need to do something? What wants to happen? Is there anything you want to say to this energy? And is there any last thing that wants to happen? Maybe you can pour love into this energy. Maybe your inner child is with you and you need to pour love into your inner child. Whatever wants to happen before we come to a close. And you can thank this energy for showing itself. Thank it for coming to you. And now take a deep breath in. That is a very brief, very quick way of doing shadow work. Hopefully you got something out of that. But if you didn't, I would just find a time when you can really settle down, not be distracted, really connect, and try it again. And I do this with my private clients, but I also do this type of thing a lot in my membership. So if you're interested in like guided meditations, guided practices that go deeper than this, there's also energy healings, and there's a lot of intuitive messages, group readings, all sorts of things. If that sounds good to you, just check out the Becoming True membership, because there's a lot of good stuff on there that's going to help you do these types of practices and get more connected to your true self. All right. Lastly, when I did the meditation on this topic, I was shown a message that I want to share with you, and that is that these processes are like an onion. It happens in layers. So just don't expect to do shadow work once and be healed forever. That's not really how it happens. Like I said earlier, I was just shown this thing in my dream, even though I've been working on my own feminine wounding for a long time now. I was just shown this new thing. And I think it's because there's been lots of layers that have been worked through, that have been peeled and released. And this was just the one that was shown to me that I'm ready for now. So just keep in mind, this is a process. And once you start doing this type of work, it becomes easier to do it. Just like anything, right? It's like a muscle. You have to work the muscle, and once you work it a couple of times, it gets easier and easier. So I really encourage you to start deciding to view your pain as a golden opportunity for more healing, more wholeness. As the teacher, your pain is your teacher. What is it trying to show you? What is it trying to teach you? Sometimes it's as easy as, like, recently, at the time of this recording, I've been like kind of going and going, going, and I really needed a break. And so my body got sick. It's like, oh, you needed to rest. And so you're here. Now you're going to have these symptoms that cause you to rest. It could just be that. That's a very like superficial, superficial. Why can't I say that word? I did say it correctly, didn't I? That's just like a very shallow example, but there's so many ways that working with pain is beneficial on multiple levels. And I just want to remind you, it just takes intentionality and it's not even as scary as it sounds. It's so much easier than it sounds when you have the guidance. It's kind of scary when you don't know what to do. You're like, now I'm aware of this thing. What do I do? But if you need more support, then come join me in Becoming True. You could even join for free. There's an option to join for free. And if you join a subscription level, then you can have access to more and more amazing resources and things and live calls with me and workshops and all sorts of things. So just remember there's a golden shadow in shadow work. The pain is showing you something and it wants you to look. And once you look, it becomes less painful. This is almost like a prescription. You do the shadow work, you do the inner work, you look at it, you learn from it, and then the pain isn't as painful. So that's healing, and it's so beautiful. So if it sounds good to you, check out Becoming True. I'd be happy to assist you, to guide you in there. Just check the show notes for the link. Let me just check, is there any other message that wants to come through related to our episode topic today? I'm being reminded of the idea of quantum leaping. Quantum leaping usually isn't just love and light. When people are talking about love and light and like spirituality and, just in life, it's good. I love and light. But the depth and the darkness is so rich. That's the fertile ground. And when we talk about darkness, we're not talking about scary, spooky stuff. We're talking about what's inside of you that has not yet been healed, that has not yet been brought to your conscious awareness. So that depth, so we can talk about your personal underworld. That is another way of saying the parts of you that are waiting to be discovered. It's not as scary as it sounds. I promise. And I was just being shown that the idea of quantum leaping, of course, we all want a quantum leap. We all want to have amazing miracles, progress in our lives. But you can't really do that just with love and light. You have to engage in the depth and the darkness of yourself, of your soul, of your body, because that's like the juicy part. That's like the fuel. I don't know why I'm being shown like the fuel, the juice, the fuel for your quantum leap is there. You just have to journey into your personal underworld. Ooh, I like the idea of having a whole episode on the personal underworld. It could be a little bit different than this one. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. If this episode spoke to you, if it resonated with you, go ahead and give it a like, give us a rating, share us. I would love to reach even more people. So thank you very much. Mwah. Bye.
If this episode resonated with you, if it helps you access a deeper truth within yourself, then please share it with someone you love, because the world needs more of us living our truer lives. This has been a Truer Media production. The Truer podcast is created and produced by me, Katrina Slade. Music by Frequently Asked Music. Wordmark by Annika Samples of Incandescent Creative. Cover photography by Lucenda Richard. Time for the really short legal talk. This podcast is presented solely for educational purposes. I am your soul sister. I am a spiritual guide, but I am not a licensed physician, psychologist, or other qualified medical professional. I hope to see you again.